On today's episode of Future Says, we have Niraj Parihar, Executive Vice President and leader of Capgemini's Data and Insights division in India. He's in charge of creating value for Capgemini's customer base in the rapidly evolving domain of data, digital and the cloud, while he's also a vocal advocate for diversity and inclusion in the workplace. Hello and welcome to Future Says. Niraj, great to have you on the show to talk all about leadership in the age of AI.
Thank you, Sean. Great to be here.
So during the course of this series, Niraj, we have data leaders from all around the world talking about the many trials and tribulations with adopting a data-first approach. But one thing that comes up time and time again is the importance of culture and leadership. Of course, this is something that Gartner, McKinsey, MIT, Datanami, and many other consultancies and institutions are saying is potentially the single biggest barrier to gaining value from analytics and AI today. Culture is something that oftentimes has to be driven right from the top, right from leadership. And in a period of time which is rife with disruption and change, we need to start to redefine what effective leadership is. Niraj, in recent years, you've headed up the Data and Insights division at Capgemini in India, and you've introduced a myriad of different initiatives to really drive this culture, this motivation, concepts around diversity and inclusion, corporate social responsibility, workplace flexibility, autonomy, data democratization, and more, all of which have been potentially more important than ever before in the last 18 to 24 months as workers have shifted to working from home. Mental and physical health has taken a foremost priority. So it's a really good time and an excellent person to have this discussion with, Niraj. So can you help maybe frame the discussion for our audience by just introducing the sorts of projects the Data and Insights division at Capgemini are involved in?
Absolutely, Sean, and totally agree with you. We live in very interesting times, but definitely one very positive aspects of today's evolution is we happen to be in the middle of a large number of transformational data and analytics programs. Pretty much every industry that we're touching is looking to transform their business and customer outlook through the power of data. So just to give you a few examples, my team, one of the examples, they are, in the middle of implementing one of the largest data lake in the consumer processing goods space. This will be one of the largest data lake covering global performance metrics and monitoring of this particular customer's supply chain operations, their HR, finance, and then in addition, it also gives a self-service type of capability to your point around data democratization, as well as creates a very powerful foundation for us to almost create an analytics bar or a kiosk online where the business users can walk in and on an ad hoc basis could ask for some very interesting insights or useful business insights. Another example, airline industry. We're looking at the devices, sensors, and black box type of data sources inside an aircraft to see how do we share that data and collect data from different airlines in sort of a data ecosystem type of model and enrich the products and services for the passengers. Last example, and there are many, for a life sciences customer, we are creating this massive data platform for the future that will enable us to have more than 36 use cases around their research and development, their drug distribution, their clinical trials, so on and so forth. It's interesting, on one end of the spectrum, protecting the data is so paramount, but on the other end, you benefit so much more by sharing it across, and that collective wisdom is tremendous insights.
Yeah, and I want to pick up on that point then, Niraj, about data sharing. The last 18 to 20 months have been, I've just seen everything turned on its head, put upside down. How have you survived? How have you managed to have the success that you're talking about here with such a difficult climate?
Yeah, it's been, I'd say, a very humbling period to say the least, Sean, last 2 years now almost. And what has worked for us is, number one, our agility to face and embrace the change. Everybody talks about the agile execution and the, stand-up meetings and all of that. I think my largest, agile experience is what we went through in a very short period of time within Capgemini. There was a daily stand-up call starting from our CEO to, India CEO, where I was part of. Then I would do one with my team, and then, next three levels would do the same. So suddenly, you see the almost 50,000 members of the organization scrumming in a way to embrace and handle this change. And this is where we learned. This is where we learned most of our most of our lessons. What were the priorities and how we needed to. What were the issues and challenges. And actually, this is where having the diversity helped quite a bit in the organization, because it did complete our thinking and policy making and the adjustments. But ultimately, what worked is we remain agile, and we absolutely focus on the well-being of our employees as the first priority, followed by our business commitments. And this is where we did not compromise at all. It was very interesting change. We went overnight, from working in offices. Pre-pandemic, we were only about 10 to 15% of the workforce, working from homes, and within 3 weeks we were almost 98% of the organization working from home. And this was a massive change, going from the typical desktops type of scenario and to providing laptops to everyone, making sure the connections at homes are strong. At the same time, since now everybody at home, how do we make sure that it's not just our employees' well-being, but also entire families' well-being? How do we take responsibility for that? Situations like these, people go back to their implicit biases. And so we also saw a lot of pattern where some of the diverse group got disproportionately impacted than, everyone else. So we had to take notice of that and create special, provisions for that. But, after first 3 or 4 months, we were very clear, where this is going to go. And we created a lot of flexible policies and approaches. Essentially we said that the location of the work probably does not matter, but it is important for our employees to be physically together at least once in a while. So in the new normal, we said we are going to remain very flexible on where you work from and the mode of working, the times of working. Even extend it to our women colleagues, for example, on part-time working or, very, flexi hours and those types of provisions. But we, reduced our tolerance to zero for some of the, ethical, malpractices or even, data protection, those types of leakages, because the risk became a bit more higher. So the new normal for us is not just about where employees work from, but how is the new work infrastructure going to look like? How is the new learning infrastructure going to look like? How do people innovate? How do we engage with our people, with our customers? What are the new risks and how do we sort of mitigate it? So a lot of learning, a lot of expedited change, but I think in the end it's a good change, and we feel like we now comfortable with where we are and where new normal takes us from here.
I want to pick up on some advice you might have, I guess, to other prospective leaders out there, Niraj. You mentioned the daily stand-up calls, sort of workplace flexibility. What else do you suggest other leaders that might be listening should take, or what are the most important steps, I guess?
So, especially in the context of pandemic like this, Sean, we need to understand that this is not a financial crisis. This is a health crisis at the end of the day, and therefore the people and their well-being and their surroundings have to take absolutely top priority, because this is also temporary in nature, and the investment that we make in their well-being today are going to reap tremendous rewards later on for us. The other thing I would say is we will come across many things, many old ways of working which will now suddenly get, exposed. And so you have to be nimble, you have to be agile, and accepting that there are some, things that are not valid or don't work, anymore. So I think that agility is quite important. Third thing I would say is the change was already there, right? We were, becoming more and more, digital. There are new generations, coming into the workplace. There are new trends. The pandemic just, became one more, I would say, catalyst. One catalyst to make sure that we, address all of these changes together and in a better way. So I think the bigger context of what it could mean to us for future is extremely important. And then every crisis has the opportunity. We saw this as an excellent opportunity to consolidate our position in the employee marketplace. And as I said, there were actually a number of reports out there that said that one thing that this pandemic is going to do is to put all of the diversity and inclusion type of initiatives on hold or slow it down. We in fact expedited it, and in the peak of pandemic we actually hired more diverse workforce than our regular workforce, right? So and we feel good about that today.
Yeah, and that's now a topic I want to open the book on. So diversity and inclusion, Niraj, it's something you're very passionate about. How do you ensure at Capgemini that your global workforce of 300 or so thousand people is diverse, is inclusive, and these types of things?
It's a must-have for us. We've been very top-down, with this intent and initiative. So to me, diversity at the end of it is diversity of thoughts, and it comes in different segments, if you will. What we focus in India and elsewhere. Traditionally, we have focused quite a bit on the gender diversity aspect of it, followed by LGBTQ. The generational diversity is becoming quite interesting. That's been always implicit in everything we do. And then there is this large space of persons with disabilities, which I personally think is another big opportunity area that the industry needs to do justice with. For us, we look at, of course, diversity is about numbers, having more and more percentage of your population from diverse backgrounds. So we've done tons of work in attracting and retaining, let's say, women talent in the organization. We've done programs like Captivate, where, after a few years, if a young mother had to leave her career for a few years or for other personal, demands, we are attracting them back, making them current by investing in their in their professional skills, and then bringing them into mainstream, businesses. So number of programs. We also run a sponsorship program where each one of the India country board leader is sponsoring at least one potential pipeline women to VP, and making sure that the potential is tapped to get them there over a period of time. So even as we speak, there are close to 50 such sponsorship candidates that are in the process with us to get there. We also intersecting our D&I efforts with the CSR. In fact, one other opportunity we leveraged during pandemic is as remote working became feasible and common. We actually went to the remote areas in India, rural areas, and actually hired 500 underprivileged women, trained them into our infrastructure services type of work, and they are now employees of Capgemini. So feel very, very proud about that. But I feel the big thing that makes the difference is actually the I part of D&I, the inclusion. It's great to have a good percentage of workforce diverse, but if you're not going to include them in your decision making, policy making, you're not getting them to the decision making places, then it's of very limited use. So we've actually taken on that as a primary objective. And one thing that is quite close to me is our initiative about women in technology, where we're not only busting the myths that the technology, deep technology roles, women don't opt for. That's absolutely proven wrong. We have been doing many women-only hackathons, for example. And then what I'm really proud of is today about 35% of our architects are women. And then LGBTQ, out front has been another, learning experience for me. We started, formally, focusing on this space by launching Outfront, which is our initiative to enable inclusion for LGBTQ plus community. Since then, I think there's been a tremendous progress. It hasn't been an easy journey, but the progress is good. We've done a number of podcasts from even leaders from LGBTQ community to come and sensitize our workforce around the issues and topics associated with this. Also Pride March, celebrating, important events. In 2019, we also did a adaptation move where we, adjusted a lot of our policies to ensure that, that community is adequately represented. So things like, extending insurance to same-sex relationship, or even subtle changes like, having gender-neutral restrooms in your campuses and offices, things like that. It makes a big difference. And then this year, what's very special with us is we've gone to the allyship with the LGBTQ+. So we actually created an Outfront ally, network where we have appointed allies at every grade across the organization, across the locations, and they've in addition to the community members themselves, now the allies are also becoming the change agents to bring that awareness and sensitization in the organization. In many cases, they also become the first responder in case of grievances and things like that, right? So pretty good progress there, but especially in cultures like India, there's quite a bit of social stigma attached with this space. So it is still a tough journey, but we're quite determined to make sure that we have equal and inclusive play for all aspects of this community as well.
Yeah, it's an awesome answer, and clearly Capgemini is a very diverse, inclusive place to work. Clearly that's going to rapidly accelerate employee satisfaction. I think we sort of started the question talking about hiring and how to hire a diverse, inclusive workforce, but creating it and retaining it is two different things and are both equal of importance. What I wanted to ask you as the head of the Data Insights Division, Niraj, is are there any internal projects where you're using data to actually track employee churn and employee satisfaction and concepts like this?
Yes, absolutely. And this is a great question because, as you know what they say, a doctor never treats himself or herself, right? So, you do all this great work for your customers and ecosystem, and then, you look back and see, you could have used data-driven transformation yourself. So there are 3 or 4 places where, we have massive attention to make our own enterprise data-driven. One is a no-brainer in the employee space. So we call it intelligent HR. People analytics is a part of it. And then a lot of the finance analytics and of course our customer analytics and so on and so forth. But let me speak about the people analytics piece. There's a natural instinct to start with the retention, analytics type of use case when you do that. And somewhere down the line, you realize that you're picking up, as your first case, probably the most complex use case. Yeah. So we done that, being that, we had some success, but that space, changes in parameters that fast that, the algorithms of yesterday don't work today. So you have to constantly upgrade it. So what we've done is we then said that, okay, let's, focus on the driving factors as opposed to the symptoms or the outcomes of, why people leave or why they stay. And this is where, we have gone on to more of creating a happiness type of index or, employee satisfaction, type of index by focusing on, a number, actually 57 to be precise, 57 touch points of when you receive a first recruiter contact from Capgemini to the point you leave us, and then also to the point you join us back in future. So if you really look at it, there are a number of touch points there. Everybody remembers their first recruiter call, first day of onboarding, first meeting with the manager, first appraisal discussion, first project assignment, first promotion, first international assignment, first training, first reward, first recognition, first increment, all the way to, when you are perhaps not very happy with the organization, and so retention conversations and the exits and, coming back. So our effort is, if through the power of data, we can, track signs and also decide figure out the happiness factor at each of these touch points, then collectively it gets you to your goal. Ambitious program, but we are, keen on executing it. There are some pieces already in place, but there is a long journey to go. So that's, that's something that, I guess, we'll have to do it for ourselves, and that endorsement at the end of the day from the chief HR officer of Capgemini probably means a lot more than our customers endorsing it for us.
Drinking your own champagne, Niraj, I quite like that.
Yes, absolutely.
And one thing you've sort of spoken about is people analytics and HR analytics, and getting people more involved in the data conversation internally at Capgemini, externally in your clients and partners. Can you break out that whole topic of data democratization a little bit, and how you demystify AI to people that aren't so savvy in this field?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because it depends on which side of the table you sit on. So one is, to me, data literacy and data democratization go hand in hand. You need to significantly increase the data literacy dimension for you to be, massively successful at data democratization. Yeah. But if you just zoom into the data literacy space, It's a two-way street with us. There's a two flavor of this challenge. One is in my unit, I have a large number of technical data engineers who are very good about technology and implementing it for businesses, but maybe not so great about getting the business context all the time. On the other hand, in our customers' ecosystem and environment, you have this great segment of business savvy folks who understand business in and out, but can't cope up with the technical nuances of data. So the data literacy for us is to sort of fill that gap on both sides. So some of the things that we have done is we actually rolled out this AI Academy initiative, entirely homegrown. Made it a little bit of fun by introducing 4 levels of certification that you could do. It starts from cadet, then you become a genie, guru, and then captain at the end of the course. So captain is the place where you actually become the advisory solution architect for your customers or internal data transformation. We also have a business version of the AI Academy that we've been offering it to our customers to increase the data literacy quotient in their data programs. So that's one extremely popular. It's one of the biggest adoption that we have seen. I think in when we launched it in 2019, we saw that 1 year more than 10,000 people are already certified, and that number collectively is over 60,000 today. We're also focusing quite a bit on the data storytelling skills on our side. So we've created this niche segment of people who actually the bridging force between our technical workforce and the business.
I love that concept of collaboration in the enterprise as well, of learning and training and empowerment in the enterprise. We've spoken about a lot of the different aspects of organizational culture. One area I did want to pick back up on before we start to wrap things up, Niraj, is the concept of CSR. People speak about AI for good projects, AI for social good. There's probably not enough of it. You spoke earlier about prioritizing the workforce over business benefits sometimes. I'd like to hear as well about how you prioritize CSR. I believe you've co-founded or you lead a CSR initiative at Capgemini, Niraj, is that right?
Yeah, so I'm president of Capgemini NGO called We Care. This is one of one part of the CSR that we do in India. And interesting evolution, the WeCare was formed by a bunch of enthusiastic business analysts back in, I think, early 2000, in Pune. And what they started doing is, going to these remote places and encourage, young girls from underprivileged communities to study and sort of, create some sort of career intentionality. It is from there, this particular initiative picked up today about 45,000 volunteers within Capgemini associated with the NGO. We also work with more than 100 other NGOs to, partner with them on a volunteering basis to do a number of good things in the society. Of late, we've focused more on the digital inclusion piece of it. Which comes in, two main objectives of one is how do we create more and more digital citizenship, right? Because that digital enablement, is important because the pace with which things are evolving, even for people to participate in the socio-economic and political, landscape, you can't do it without the basic, digital education. So we've been doing that in different segments. There's a very popular program called Enlight, where we're going to very diversified backgrounds and whether they're sex workers or the sanitization workers, taking their kids and training them on basic digital skills. to also going to a number of areas one of the coolest things that we've done is we have been creating these STEM kits, with the number of sensors and Raspberry Pi, and things like that, and very economical kits, so that we can enable that spirit of innovation and learning in the mid school level kids, especially in the poor segments of our society, and that's been working very well. For last, especially pre-pandemic days, majority of our internal events, these kids came and showed us the innovation. It's quite impressive, right? Then a bit more sophisticated, we are doing quite a bit of actually creating serious digital skills to enable students for jobs in places like Capgemini through our Digital Academy program, where we partnered with a couple of NGOs. So what we do is we've created I think about 36 different digital academies in 12 cities in India, and basically we'll these are educated students done their bachelor's in commerce or arts or some science, but for some reason could not get to get to a good job. So we get them in, train them more on our types of skills, design those curriculums, and then basically either absorb them in Capgemini or enable them for absorption in other organizations like us. So one of the programs that we started was AWS, as part of the Restart initiative, where we actually been, even as we speak, training about 1,200 people on the cloud skills to be absorbed by us or others in future. And then at global level, you talked about AI for good. So one initiative I'll talk about is which is sponsored by Insights and Data, my division, is the Global Data Science Challenge. And we've been actually picking up, problem use cases from the environment and sustainability area. In fact, last year we did this very popular hackathon around tracking of sperm whales, by attaching sensors to their tails. And then, when you do that, at one point, the data becomes so significant that it becomes very difficult to analyze. So we did a hackathon, and, a number of teams came with very, very innovative solutions to, derive insights out of it. And this year, actually, last month, we completed another hackathon on Love the Ocean, where, this ocean observatory has a number of devices, actually the sensors at the bottom of the ocean, and they're tracking the climate related changes, and how the terrains are changing, and the ocean life is changing. And again, at some point the data becomes exponential.
And I'm taking copious amounts of notes here, Niraj. There's some great initiatives and ideas, and I always do think that sometimes there's a disproportionate amount of conversation around the algorithms and the technology, and not enough discussions like this around culture and leadership and initiatives and different ways to keep the workforce engaged and happy and satisfied. So this is a great discussion. To sort of try to start to conclude things, Niraj, the title of the show is Future Says. We always talk about what comes next. So with all of these amazing things going on, what are the tangible goals you have in your head for the D&I business, and what does the workforce of the future look like in 5 years, let's say?
Yeah, I mean, goals is, again, we go maybe 2 years at a time. So right now we are, focusing on how do we advance our journey further in data ecosystem, that's coming in. We've already started investing in, new trends in, immersive experience through AR, VR. There's a lot of metaverse talk out there, of late. Also, quantum computing, we've been investing. Personally, I think this is one of the ones that is a step change it brings. Along with 5G, which is, I think, similar to quantum computing, is going to, break out the performance parameter of our devices and create that kind of bandwidth so that the devices become a lot more intelligent and a lot more, faster, right? Then, there are new trends in machine learning. You talk about federated learning, and some of it is already implemented, but I think the larger portion will come in. So the way I see it is, with all of these trends and changes, it does seem chaotic. But I do think, there is a meeting point of all of it at some time in future. And that's where, the technologies and the trends that are here to stay will become more and more of an enhanced base of everything we do. And then the new things, come in to enrich us further. So for us, we are a learning organization. We are learning from our customers, our partners like Altair, and at times we are handholding them and taking them to their destination. Other times they are handholding us. So it's all about collaboration at the end of the day, right? So feel happy about this space. It's good to be here in a lot of transformation, a lot of moving pieces, and it's the ambiguity that excites me the most.
What a mission statement. I love it, Niraj. Great way to conclude the show. It's all about collaboration. Lots of brilliant insights in this session. Really delighted to have you, Niraj. We'll include some of the some links to the things you've mentioned in the show notes, and hopefully we'll get to have you on the show again in the future to hear what happens in 2 years' time.
Yes, thank you, and all the best to you and Altair family. It's great to have on the show with you, Sean.
Thanks for watching. Now, next up on altair.com/future says will be Jim Scapa, founder, chairman and CEO of Altair. He'll be closing the series by offering his unique perspectives on the many debates and discussions we've had. Hope to see you there.